First hand, raise the button with ace. Okay. Jack 7 folds. Ace 6, I'm going to guess from the hijack that's a fold. Fantastic. Do you have any specific ranges you follow? Do you have ranges you developed yourself? Do you follow the ones from the Grips book? What's your approaches for kind of the pre-ante stages, just in terms of default kind of opens?
I don't have any exact ranges pre-ante, but I just play by the players pretty much. So if there comes a good situation, but in the first 2, 3, 4 orbits, I just take it really easy and just see how it goes and get a feel of the table, especially when I'm one tabling. So you don't see me doing anything crazy.
Okay.
Here,
so you take the first few rounds, few hands to just gather intel on your opponents, so that you can kind of identify who you would want to play more pots with, who you might want to kind of widen your ranges against as the game progresses. Okay.
Yeah, but you know, all the suited connectors and stuff like that, I love playing them. So you might see me opening quite a bunch of them from anywhere. But
yeah, that's fine. I know,
like 10-7 off suited, I might open under again this deep, because I think there are 2 players I recognize.
Yeah.
Here on my table, so.
And but you wouldn't take it as far as 6-3 suited, right? You look for that.
No.
Okay, and that's probably why I know people are going to ask. The pair of 3s goes in the muck because the cards are just too small, too hard to make a good pair or a good draw with a pocket pair, and the odds of hitting a set are not that good. All right, this one looks like one that would probably be played. Jack Queen suited. Thoughts on just completing from the small blind as opposed to isolating this guy who looks like he's playing a pretty wide range?
He's playing a lot, but I don't know. I'm on the small blind, so I get in quite tricky situations sometimes. I like just flatting here pre-ante, just take the flop and see where it takes me.
Okay. If you had, say, Queen Jack offsuit where your hand doesn't play as well multi-way, would you consider?
Yeah, more and then, but this flops so well, so I don't mind taking a 3-way flop, but when it's offsuit, I would like to go heads up then.
Yeah, and it's also cool that when you have the high-ranking suited broadways, the Queen Jack suited, the King Queen suited, the Ace 10 suited, or whatever, if the big blind happens to have some random suited hand, you have, it's a small chance, but you have a chance of having them dominated and flush dominated, because people aren't folding when they flop a flush, even if they saw it out of the blind. So keeping those hands in as opposed to shutting them out when you have strong suited broadways is another benefit to playing the multi-way that offsuit ones don't have. So we flop top pair. You go into check call mode.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the lead on the turn?
A lead? Well, okay, well, when he just called, I thought he might have some pocket pairs, maybe. They're small pocket pairs, and he might call here, and just we could check down the river, but I don't know, he didn't have much. It looks like that, but it's hard to say.
Okay.
The lead is kind of funny. I don't do that much with top pair, so I don't know actually.
Okay.
I don't do that often.
I like the lead for a couple of reasons. One is if he's just stabbing at the flop, once you check call, you either have a jack, a 6, a good draw, maybe ace high, but maybe even not that many ace highs. So on this 7 turn, he can't really expect you to fold much of his range that would have called on the flop, so there's no incentive for him to 2-barrel his air. So at this point, you've kind of gotten maximum value out of his air hands, so you might as well guarantee that you also get maximum value out of any draw hands and protect against any random overcard hands he may have to prevent him from seeing a free river and taking the pot away from you with a lucky catch. I take this line fairly often when I think I've kind of gotten the maximum bluff out of someone, and I know there are some hands they'll continue with, but they would prefer to pot control, and I'm like, no pot control, you're paying if you want to keep playing. And I find leading works well in those situations.
Yeah, that's true. You can dress it up better, but yeah.
Yeah.
I was kind of getting there.
Cool. And for you guys who want to discuss the hands, what we're going to do is every hour at the usual 5-minute break of tournaments, we're going to take questions for 5-10 minutes. But if you guys want to do back and forth discussion, like more in depth, Lost in Poker is going to start threads on the forum at team.gripsed.com, and you guys can just post your responses and post your questions there. And then maybe at the end of the stream, we'll take like the most debated hands, the most like curious hands, and we'll go through everyone's response in the forum and pick 3 to 5 of them and go really in depth in those. And I think that'll kind of maximize the efficiency and the effectiveness of this hand history review for everyone involved. Okay, so ace-4 is a fold, 6-9 is a fold, ace-king is definitely going to be a play. And all right, this is a spot you're facing a reg who's an aggressive 3-better. I always am like unsure, 4-bet or flat. Which did you pick and why?
I think it's kind of close. With Sue, I have his whole stats here, and you of course don't know. But I don't know back then what did the stats look like for him at that moment.
You played 8 hands on the table. You got nothing. 0-0-0.
Yeah.
But he is 3-betting the button, and that's the regular's favorite place to 3-bet loose for sure.
Yeah. I think I'll go for a call and see what happens. Just drawing hand, kind of.
Okay. And is it like a lot of stack depth? I find when I'm deeper stacked, I prefer to flat. Whereas if I'm like 40 big blinds or shallower, I'm pretty content to just 4-bet and try to get it in.
Yeah, that's true. 30, 40 big blinds, I just get it in. But if I 4-bet it here to like 1K and the pot is, both have 9K, pot is 2K.
Yeah.
And I completely miss the flop quite often, so it comes a hard pot when I'm out of position here. So I just don't like to go crazy like that.
Definitely. And I think this is a spot that actually I'd love to go through with like you and Ali and maybe Charlie and Ben, because even at 40 big blinds, I find like, I think at that depth they can still flat the 4-bet and the pot to stack ratio is still like kind of deep. And I kind of want to figure out like kind of the optimal stack where it's like, okay, like just don't 4-bet here because they can really make your life hell. Like what that kind of like post-flop PSR is for the in-position player where they can hammer you. But we'll do that later on when we don't have an 8-hour review to do. So you flop the top pair, top kicker, feeling good about it.
That's good.
Check call, you're going to keep all his bluffs in there, let him value bet with worse hands. He checks back on the turn, so you're probably feeling pretty confident about your hand. And on the river, do you...
Just a small bet. I don't think he has much. If he has jack, I can't bet that much.
Yeah. I think also if he had a draw, because like I always get to the room like, should I check to induce from bluffs? I think if he had a draw, he probably would have kept betting on the turn. So he either has a marginal made hand or an air hand that we're getting no value from anyway. So
yeah, I agree.
I like your small bet. He calls, and he had queens, so you played it perfect. New players are like, no man, if he went all in pre-flop, he could have stacked that dude.
Yeah, and I might be out.
Yeah, yeah. And like when you're one tabling, I find it's good practice when you're one tabling because that's when you don't want to take flips. When you got like 12, 16 tables, you're like, whatever, I'll take flips and I'll build a stack and some of my tourneys and bust them. I don't care because then I'll have like 3 or 4 deep runs to focus on. But when you're one tabling, you're like, no, maximize edge, minimize gamble, for sure.
Yeah, 165 big blinds is a bit too much to flip, in my opinion, in this field. So.
Yeah. For those of you who are like, oh my God, Sunday Million big blind, the Sunday Million is one of the softest. It's the softest 215 of the week, and it's softer than a lot of other tournaments, just because the field size is so big. Whenever you get a big field size, you're going to have weak players. All right, so we got queens. We got a 4x open from under the gun. What do you make of that?
I like flatting here. Just if there's people 3-betting, I can just call. If I 3-bet and someone 4-bets, the situation kind of sucks for me. But of course, if I 3-bet and someone 4-bets, it's like if I had ace queen, I would like a 3-bet here. If someone 4-bets, it's easy fold. But with queens, I just hope to see a flop because there's loads of crap in his range still. But of course, it's 4x. So what do you know?
Yeah.
Steve guy, but
yeah,
I like flatting in the early preseason. I might flat aces here even so. I don't really have that big of a value 3-bet range here. Of course I have, but it depends on the situation.
Yeah, and I think another big consideration, like I'm very cautious with my big pairs in the early stages. People saw me make what seemed like absurd folds in that 8-8-8-1 kick. So I'm like, early stages, yeah, the guy's raising from first position, so his range is not that wide to begin with. And it's like, more importantly, what's his range for getting it in? And when we looked at the ace-king spot that just happened, where we're like, we don't want to get in 160 bigs with ace-king. So what are people probably going to be willing to get all in with? Aces and kings. And when we 3-bet, we're opening the door to getting forced into a potential huge pre-flop situation, which you just don't want in the early stages of the tournament, where people are not going to be getting in with hands that you dominate. Like jacks, 10s, 9s are not just going to 4-bet get it in, so I really like the flat. My only concern sometimes is flat, I'm like, well, what if the hand, if a bunch of people call and have to end up playing multi-way? I think it's just something you kind of accept it. When you get dealt a big pair deep stacked, it's not the same dream situation as when you get dealt a big pair on like 20 to 30 big blinds.
Yeah, that's true. Just the situation is like that, and if you gotta take it multi-way, you take it multi-way, and you just flop a set or something like that. Then, but
yeah, it's even better if it's multi-way if you flop a set.
Yeah.
So they check to you here. You opt not to bet the flop. You're basically like just pot controlling. You want to get a little more info on the big blind before committing any chips.
I don't see any reasons to really bet here on the flop. So.
And he bets and takes it, and you're just okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I think it's fine. There, he doesn't get married to big pocket pairs because he knows that it's a 7-card game, not a 2-card game. A lot of people forget that when they first get into poker. They think it's a 2-card game. It's not. Alright, so folds. Actually, it looks like we'll have a bunch of folds, so I can just skip through. You play 6 suited in mid position? Okay. You take the blinds, cool. Do you play, if you had ace-6 under the gun, do you fold, do you just basically kind of open any suited ace once you're in mid position and later? Or do you open any suited ace from any position in the early stages?
No. Nah, I think I'm folding the suited aces up until like ace-10 under the gun. Okay. I try to keep my range there pretty tight, so people aren't calling me that wide anyway, so I don't see a reason to open like ace-6. I just get owned too much.
I like it. There's a note for you guys. Early position, play the suited aces that have royal flush draws, not the suited aces that have steel wheel draws. Those are for later position. So, we defend our big blind with 6-7. I like it. This guy...
Where are we?
We're at 6-7 offsuit. The guy's kind of a fishy player. You're getting 4-1, 3.5-1, so easy peel, especially against a weak player. And with mid pair, when he checks back, you must be feeling solid. Okay, I'm just checking.
I think I could have bet the turn there as protection because I don't really have much good rivers coming for me, but
yeah, I think I like
check call's fine.
I think I like a turn bet. I feel like in terms of like the way his c-betting range looks, I think most of his air is betting the flop, and he doesn't have too much air that's doing a delayed c-bet. So betting the turn as like a value bet against ace high and a semi-bluff against everything else is cool because it allows you to control the size of the bet on the river and really... Yeah.
I could have gotten like 260 on the turn, and the pot would be 200 smaller on the river, so it would be a much better situation for me, but now I just the river sucks and
check call's fine and then check fold's fine. I think even if the river wasn't bad, I think folding to a river bet's probably smart because he usually has like showdown value when he checks back the flop, like pocket pair between sevens and queens or a weak queen. So it's really only diamond draws we were beating, and literally beat 0 on the river. So good hand, well played.
And he went almost pot size on the river, and these weaker players, they tend to go big on the river if they feel like they haven't got max value for their hands. So I think it's a bit of a tell from them.
Yeah.
And I think he got there with something big. He might have like ace queen even there, and he just goes crazy with it.
Yep, definitely. I definitely agree. So on to the king 8 that you fold out of the big blind. I agree with this. I'm just curious what hands you would peel with here. Like if it was suited, would you peel? If it was king 10, would you peel? Or does it need to be a little stronger? Because you are getting good odds, but playing 5-way, you don't really want to have a dominable hand.
Yeah, it's quite on the fence, but I just 7-1. But king 10, I would defend. If it's suited, I would defend. That's the story. I would defend like almost any suited king here. Any suited king, I would defend for sure.
And what about offsuit kings? What do you need your kicker to be?
King 10 probably.
So like
there's those flops hit me just way better when I have the straight draw possibility also.
Yeah, because I feel like when we're playing 5-way, we're not really looking to just make pairs. We're really looking to make drawing hands. So king 10, I agree, is kind of the minimum. Like I think if you had king 10, jack 8 offsuit, you could defend here because it has that same straight draw potential.
Yeah.
And we just like we don't get excited when we flop top pair jack or 8 if there's any heat. We're looking at 2 pair trips or a good draw multi-way.
Yep.
Cool. And if it was heads up, when we defend, we could defend it, but then we're more content if we flop a pair because one-on-one a pair is probably good. Cool. And on that note, we fold the king 8 there, but we call with king 10 suited here because even though we're in the small blind, we're getting a great price. It's going to be multi-way, and we have straight draw potential and flush draw potential. And you got a gut shot, backdoor flush draw.
Yeah. Interesting flop.
Interesting.
Not that interesting, but yeah.
Interesting if you have position, or like if it's heads up where the guy's c-betting range is a lot weaker. I often call here with gut shots. A, because when they have it, if you hit, you get paid a lot. But B, a lot of the times when they don't have it, they'll shut down after betting once, and then you can just take it away on the river.
But sure.
4-way, I like the check fold. Tempting with that heart there. Maybe if you had position, but whatever.
Nah, I don't. Is he ever betting there? Light, I don't know.
Well, that's the thing.
He seems kind of fishy, but
I
don't know.
If he always has it, I mean, let's just look at the odds. If he always has it and you have position, so you can get paid. Let's see, you're getting 3-1 immediate, and you need about 9-1 for the gut shot to pay. But plus the backdoor flush draw, that's worth an extra 5%. So you're making a hand like 25% of the time, but the backdoor flush draw, you get paid a lot, and the gut shot, you get paid a lot. So if he actually has value, I think your implied odds are very high here.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And if he has like top pair here, the ace, I don't think he's just betting 3 streets and calling the river because I don't see him as one of the best of the game.
Yeah, and interesting thing is that if he does have an ace that's going to bet for value, the card that makes you the queen is quite likely to make him 2 pair. So your implied odds are really good, but they're not. They suck because we're out of position. I'm just thinking in fantasy land, if we were in position, I could see this being appeal because we get paid a lot on the queen if he's strong, and the backdoor flush draw, like they just never see it coming.
Yeah, that's true. And he might stop betting on the turn for some reason. So I might steal it on later streets. So I can't expect him to have the nuts always here, but
you might get to steal it. You might get to see 2 cards for the price of 1. In which case, if you got turn and river for the price he set, you would have been break even with no implied odds.
Yeah.
So it's good to know. Those draws that look weak, guys, are actually decent if you can have a chance to realize them and see them through to the end. But yeah, I like that you're playing like pretty solid in the early stages, because I know you say you get a little crazy being Northern European, so I look forward to seeing that later.
Yeah. There are a couple of 4-bet shoves, but
And just
yeah, you see, you shall see.
cool. So we speculate with ace queen, missed the flop. No worries, no need to continue. Really waiting for ideal situations in the early stages, because when we're deep stacked, we have that freedom, that flexibility to just pick and choose the best spots. We don't have to take everything that comes as we do when blinds are getting bigger.
Yeah, for me, I haven't really played cash games ever in my life, so I'm much more of a tournament guy. So pre-flop is kind of where I shine, and post-flop is kind of awkward for me. But and the deep stacks also are kind of
Okay.
odd land for me. So, but I'm working on my post-flop game as we speak. So.
And what different methods are you using to work on your post flop game? I know people are always asking about.
Yeah, well, I signed up on Tournament Poker Edge, and I'm watching their post-flop stuff, and I'm also playing cash games now, 6-max cash games, and I have a couple of friends who play cash games, so they really help too, and I play with them also, so I get some feedback from them immediately.
Yeah, I found that for developing skills in post flop, 6-max is definitely better than 9-max. And I know one of the reasons Charlie got so good was he just 4-table Zoom poker for hours and hours and hours and just see so many deep stack post flop situations. It's really good practice.
Yeah, what I do is I start up session with tournaments when I'm quitting the session and I'm getting knocked out of tournaments, I open a cash game table right by its side. So
yeah.
In the evening, it's like a cash game session for me.
Cool.
A couple hours.
I would do the same thing. It's a good way to unwind, and it's a good way to make your buy-ins back if you had a bad Sunday.
Yeah, I play like NL50 right now, so it's not anything too crazy if I lose there first.
I think that's the best way to do it. When you're practicing like a new skill, like go to a limit where you just don't care about the money at all, so you can take risks and be comfortable with the decisions. And it's better than being like, all right, I had a big score, so I'm going to jump into NL 400, NL 1K. Too tough, too stressful when you're learning something new.
And they would just kick my ass all day.
They might.
I hate losing, so I just went to NL50 and I hope I beat those guys.
Perfect. Very smart. Good value in NL50. Anyway, so Queen 6 BVB, limp pot. You got to feel like you got the best hand, so he bets, you call, he checks.
Yeah.
Do you ever consider betting the turn to protect against random gut shots and get value from some weak draws he may have? Because I feel like you usually have the best hand on the turn.
Yeah. I could bet here, and I think I don't know. I played it really tight at the start of the tournament for some reason, but I do bet this quite often here, but because this draw board has some draws in it, so any kings, jacks, I can see him just checking and maybe calling with those, and I could get some value out of him. But this Kurt guy is quite solid also.
Okay.
I know him, but
do you think he's ever check raising the turn though? Because that's the only thing that should keep you from betting is if you think he's check raising the turn, bluff or not, or slow plays an ace sometimes.
Yeah.
Which probably
in his hot stats he has never check raised the turn, so I think I should have bet here.
Okay.
In retrospect.
Cool.
And I make the 2-pair.
Yeah. You make 2-pair, get no value, whatever. 7-8 suities, 3-bet. I like it. I really like 3-betting a wide range against wide button openers, and 7-8 suited is a perfect semi-bluffing hand to do that with.
And I made it quite big because we're deep-ish. He has room to call and he's in position, so I think if I made like 1.2k, he might call a lot wider, so I made it a little bit bigger to get the folds.
Yeah, I like it. I think as a default, most people 3-bet too small, but we'll change that. Everyone in the inner circle will change that and make more money. Go team. All right, pocket 9, same guy, slightly different spot though. I can see 3-betting and flatting both being options. Why don't you kind of go through your thought process when he opens and you have nines in mid position?
He opens. I'm 24, 44 big blinds deep. We are. I would go for a flat here, just because 3-betting here nines are such a tricky hand to 3-bet when we're kind of shallow still at this point already. So post flop can be just what I told. I don't want to play a big post flop pot with a hand I'm not comfortable playing with.
Yeah.
So I just flat here most of the time. When we're shallower, I just ship it or make something goofy.
Yeah.
Not now.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a good situation.
It's pretty.
And the big blind, okay, he's not that shallow. If he had like 5K, then I think it would be even better to just flat and let him shove. Maybe he's shoving almost all his pairs and stuff like that. So it would be a really good spot to just flat.
It's so funny because I used to think of a flat to try to induce a shove behind, and I would like hope that they would shove. But it's not about hoping. It's about the shallower their stack is, the wider their range is for getting it is, and you can actually know mathematically how often they're going to shove. So it's not a hope. It's just, well, if he got dealt the top 20% of hands, I'm getting action because he has a stack that would reshove those, and when he's deeper, he's only reshoving 10%. The math is right there. And I think this spot with the nines is very similar to the queens, where if you had a value hand, you can get in, you'd 3-bet. If you have like a bluff that you just want to have the lead with, like 9-8 suited or king jack off, you would 3-bet. But with the hand that's like good but not good enough to just like fist pump get in, you don't want to open up the door to that awkward possibility of a 4-bet. So flatting is just kind of the only option.
Yeah. Someone said in the chat that my audio is kind of bad. Is it fine for you?
It's fine for me. It's going to be fine for most, and until we optimize our setup with high-tech stuff, it's the best we can do. So, we can do some post-edit with the audio, too. Can't be perfect all the time. We try our best. So he c-bets king 3-3. He's got kings, he's got ace-queens, ace-jacks, all his aces. You're ahead of enough of his range. Continue.
Yeah, I'm calling here always. Just calling.
Okay.
I don't see him getting too out of line here, so he's giving up.
On the turn, thoughts between betting the turn versus checking?
If I didn't have the flush draw, I think I would bet, but I have the draw and showdown value here, so
it's interesting.
It's a funny spot.
Yeah, because I usually hear the opposite. They say if I don't have a flush draw, I'll bet, because then a diamond coming is bad. But when they do have the flush, like it's okay for me to check. So if a diamond comes, I still feel okay about my hand. But I feel like you want to protect against there are a lot of random cards you can have that have equity that it's good to protect against.
Yeah, I choose to bet, so I went for it. It was kind of close, but I think both are fine. But I like to opt on the aggressive side when we're getting shallower. So betting is my thing. Keeping in control of the pot, he's checking. So I think he's folding everything, without the diamond. And diamonds are calling, kings are calling, of course.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I like it. And I think that betting the river would be a little too hopeful, because although he has the tens, jacks, queens that have a diamond that may fold, he could have a king too, and I don't think he's the type to just give you credit for a flush. So
and he has his queen. And I barrel a lot. I don't mind going three streets with nothing if I feel like they have a hand. They would be folding it, or they are folding too much on all the streets. But
and I think it's worth mentioning that on the spot on the turn, how like me and Max are very close on our opinions, whether to bet, whether to check. In those spots, you can see the expectation of both options is pretty neutral. So picking either option is fine, and it's not something we need to figure out the answer, because there isn't one answer. It's just all the answers are fine as long as you don't open fold when they check to you. That would be the one wrong answer. Okay.
What did he have? I remember.
He had tens with a diamond.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
We both played our hand, and he just happened to have a better one.
Yeah, and that's a great mindset for poker is to know that, I'm just going to play as best I can, and sometimes the cards are going to be such that I'm just supposed to lose this spot. Sometimes the spot is I'm supposed to lose my whole stack on the spot. And be like, oh man, like what could I have done different? It's like you couldn't have done anything different. You were just supposed to lose that one. Like, sorry.
Yeah, that's true.
Now you peel with sixes here in a spot where I usually fold, and I think
most are folding.
Yeah. So what's your reasons for calling with sixes here? I know it's another one of those just like super close spots. What swayed you towards calling in this particular instance?
Yeah, I don't have much information in this guy on this guy, but he has opened twice under the gun already, and even though I'm not a great postal player, I felt like I'm on the button. I can play against this guy, and these two players on the blinds. I don't see them squeezing light here, so I think it's fine to see a flop, and often enough I can take it away from him, I think. And sixes, it's a pair. It's hard to make a pair, so.
Yeah, and it looks like. Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, it looks like our plan is exactly that, to take it away. So let's tell us about the flop call, and then we'll take them to the turn.
Well, it's kind of small, and if we are assuming this is a weaker player, and there's this flush draw, I think if they had an ace, they would be betting bigger to defend, because this is the type of guy who just feels like they've been outdrawn every time they have a big hand when there's flush draw on the board, and they just bet like 60% to defend their hand.
Yeah.
And they kind of want to get it in also, so they just really play those hands fast, and I can see him checking the turn really often here when I call.
Yeah, so it's that fear mentality. This guy, he's got a fear mentality where he's always scared that the world is out to get him and that the worst thing happened, and then he checks and you do you bet a third of the pot and he folds.
Yeah,
this is great. And I asked because I knew people are like, this guy says this hand seems crazy because the ace came on the flop and they're like, oh man, under the gun raised and an ace came, you should be afraid. But he's got a lot of hands in his range that aren't just pair of aces.
He's open 20% under the gun, so there's more than just those aces. And if he had a small ace, I don't know if I could get him off on the river, but if he calls the turn, I'm giving up.
Yeah.
Almost always here. If it's spade, I might jam it, but otherwise, I don't see myself.
So just for fun, I put in the 20% range in the poker stove so people can see it. And now I'm going to take out all the aces and the pocket eights. And let's just assume he bet every single pair of aces on the flop. Let's just assume he bets his whole range on the flop.
Yeah.
We're just doing an extreme example here. And we'll see that when we take out the eights and the ace pairs, still 12% of his range. So 60% of his range, if he opens 20% and bets all of it, is not a pair of aces. And of the 8% that are a pair of aces, they don't have the flush draw, so they're all going to be afraid when a flush hits too. So
yeah,
he can.
And I needed 22% on the flop, so I see profit there.
Yeah, so let's look at that. The odds he needs to continue were 22%, and we just did a quick stove analysis, which is not even a Flopzilla analysis. This is super basic, and we're seeing that we're going to win the pot probably about 60% of the time to start, plus a little bit more when the flushes come. So we need 22. We're getting 6. That's a big edge right there. That's a big edge, and that's why, guys, it's not about your whole cards. It's about the board cards, and then about the unknown range cards. But the board is more important than what you got in the hole, almost always. Almost always. Would you agree, Max?
Sorry, can you repeat?
I was just saying that what's on the board is more important than what you have as your whole cards, almost always.
and who you are playing against. That's the most important one for me. Just getting inside the other player's head and playing their intentions. So then you can get these ownage spots, if you can call them.
Yeah, I really find it's like if you can understand how they interpret your betting, then you can tell them the perfect story every time.
Yeah.
Okay, so we open Jack 10 and flop second pair. You go for a c-bet. I like it. I think a lot of people would say, oh, you want to check because it's like the part of your range that can't take heat. But if you check, then you get put into a really tough spot because you let them know, like, I have... I can call the flop bet, but I got to fold too many rivers then, turns then, and I bet here for protection kind of, and if he calls, he can have like king queen who kind of hand he's calling this bet here, but smaller pocket pairs he might flat some aces here. I don't know. He hasn't 3-bet yet, so. Yeah, and I think it's just a case where he's continuing with a similar range, whether we bet and he calls or we check and he bets. But on the later streets, the turn and river, we're winning against more hands by taking this line than we would by taking a defensive line. So I like your bet here. I think it makes things easy. It's not that it makes things easier. It's just that you win the pot more often by taking that line. You happen to have a weird hand for it, but you just win the pot more often. And I think that's good.
I like taking down pots. It's fun.
Yeah. All right, so it looks like DJ Echo likes taking down pots too. I like your raise with King Jack. I like your c-bet on this board, and I also quite like his check raise because you're going to have missed over cards more often than you have an over pair or a combo draw or a set on this board, right?
Yeah, and I think I made a small mistake here with the bet sizing. I should have gone a little bit bigger. Now my bet sizing doesn't really represent anything. It represents exactly what I have. So if I see this kind of bet on this kind of board that I have 20 bigs, I'm jamming over 2. So I think I made a small mistake with the sizing here, and I gave him a chance to just read into it.
Yeah.
If I made it like, 800, I don't know if he's check raising that much, but it's hard to tell.
You basically did exactly what the player did on the previous hand on the ace high board.
Yeah.
And so you got punished for it. And I agree that if you bet bigger, he's not likely to check raise bluffs much because it costs him more. But looking at his stats of 11-2, I don't think this is a guy who's going to be bluffing much.
Yeah,
anyway.
That's true also.
So against someone who would never check raise bluff, I think a small bet's actually fine because they're going to check raise the same amount of time anyway, and that way you lose less when they do check raise against that particular player type.
Yeah.
So
and he has some eights there, king 8, ace 8, 9-8 kind of hands. He's check raising them. Not 9-8 maybe. 9-8 maybe, but not 7-8. That's I think he's calling with that because he has the draw there. But yeah, I didn't play it perfectly in my opinion there.
It's okay. You still won the tournament. So ace 10 of hearts, similar spot except we're out of position now. I like the bet, and I like that you picked bigger sizing. I think you kind of made up for your mistake on the previous hand. And he does call, which I think he still has like the same range he had pre-flop. All the big broadways, plus some pocket pairs. And you got kind of the perfect turn card to knock off a ton of his range. But how do you range him when he calls the flop?
Well, I don't think he's not folding too. His fold to c-bet is not that high, and he has room to be a bit stubborn against me. Mm-hmm. So, and the turn card. Of course, there are loads of turn cards. I can barrel all the hearts, tens, maybe. Yeah, the king's good too. Mm-hmm. Only the hand he has like what he's calling the flop with, and he hits is like king queen, I think. Mm-hmm. So
we barrel again.
I don't think he has king jack. I don't think he flats king jack there.
I agree.
But
Unless it's King Jack of Hearts, King Jack of Spades. Even still,
Yeah.
maybe not. So you fire 2, and once he's called the second one, what do you think his range is looking like?
Well, there are still all the missed straight draws, pocket pairs, some ace 8 kind of a bit goofy hands maybe.
Yeah.
What I wouldn't personally flat pre against the race, but as I said, I like barreling, and I think I have almost pot size bet here to go with, so I don't mind shoving. There's a big pot, and there aren't that much hands he can call with. I think king queen and like sets, and if he had a set, I think he would come over the top on the turn at latest, because they're the flush draw, straight draw. I don't think he wants me to get there cheaply.
Yeah, I agree. I think he has 7s here a lot, 9s a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe 8-7 suited, maybe overcards with a club draw, but yeah, and even if you like king queen, if it floated the flop, we'll probably call down, but it's not ecstatic about calling the triple barrel. So I think this was a really good run out for you, and really good that you fired all the shells. And it goes to show why if you start with the lead post flop, you open up a lot of opportunities to win the pot. Whereas if we started with the check call, we're check folding the turn. So it's the same as the previous hand, where by betting, we allow ourselves more ways to win the pot later, whether we make the best hand, whether we get a good run out, whether he folds, and yeah, he wins. So that's good, and it's really good sizing with your bets to leave yourself with kind of like 80% pot on the river.
Yes.
Because then your bluff doesn't have to work that often to be successful, but at the same time, like he's not getting too good pot odds. If there was like 10K in the middle and we have 5K behind, well, now he's getting 3-1. He's going to hero call us a lot more than when he's getting 2-1. So really good sizing by you on all streets here.
Max value bluff.
Yeah, max value bluff. Get them to commit all the chips and then take it away and don't show them.
Yeah.
All right, so ace queen. We're going to call with the flop, probably just check fold. No one wants the pot, so you say I'll take it, and he says no, actually I got it.
Yeah, but just I think as I'm on the big blind, I could have, with those odds, I could have this kind of low cards a lot. So
yeah,
I think I can represent here.
I like that. I agree with that. I think you could bet a little bit smaller on the turn.
Yeah, but yeah.
But it's a good bet, given what you said, because you're the guy who can have 2s, 5s, 6s, 3, 4. No one else is really playing those cards, so Rappa must have just like checked back a set on the flop or something.
Yeah, and he thinks I'm really strong, because I think that's a strong bet. And when I bet that big, it kind of looks like I'm a bit frustrated. I didn't get any value on the flop, and now I'm trying to get the full value on the turn and the river. So that's why I went bigger there. But I don't know if they're thinking on that level. So
they're probably not, but it's still good to be doing that, because that way, if you run into an advanced opponent, you got your bases covered.
Yeah.
And like as long as your low level stuff checks out too, which it certainly does, then it's fine to be thinking about the high level too. So we got aces against Kurt. We have a little history, a little dynamic with Kurt. You start in the hand with 27 bigs.